Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today?
Great.
So we'll get right into the name of my business, Samsara Life Transformations. The biggest question I ever get asked is, what does that even mean? So Samsara is, in Hinduism, the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. So I consider myself like a mid to three-quarter life doula for people going through crisis in that moment of like there has to be something more. Except instead of life, death, and rebirth, I do death of ego and old self into rebirthing into a new life that better suits who you are at your core, and then living that life in alignment with things that go with the flow instead of constantly fighting it and being in conflict. So I'm kind of like a tour guide for things like that. And I am not used to doing. It's not on. I'm not very tech. There we go. Awesome. So that's kind of what I do. And so basically, I help provide a map for the things that people go through. And it's just a lot easier if you have kind of a blueprint in front of you. But the problem is that when you're starting here, that is not written. So you're writing it as you go. So unfortunately, life doesn't come with a fully made map. We have to make it up as we go. So how I do things like that, one of my favorite things is I'm a certified firewalk instructor. So we build a wooden pyre like this. We put flowers and blessings and things like that on it. We light it on fire because that's fun. And then we chant, we drum, we sing, we tend the fire just like a ceremonial bonfire. And then when it burns down, we rake out the coals and we firewalk. And we do that with our full intention. It's substance free. There's no alcohol and drinking and all of that when we do that. So things that I've started doing with my business recently is I've launched what's called Camp Courage on the premise of instead of, how does everybody put that? Like, oh, just leave your comfort zone. Anything you leave, you tend to come back to. Anyone who's moved out of Ocala probably knows that premise. You move out, you come back. So your comfort zone is something they're like, step outside your comfort zone. I would like to redefine the comfort zone. As you expand your comfort zone and it gets wider, you are free to stay in that space. So what was scary that you did and came back to your safety, you are now free to be in that space and go a little bit further next time. So the premise of Camp Courage is to just really expand the comfort zone instead of staying where you are currently. I am hosting that in New England in September. Yes, it's a little bit chilly for anyone who's from Florida, but it's mostly outdoor camping. It's a lovely experience, and what I do there is I expand on the fire walking. I do glass walking, I do arrow breaks with your throat, and I've added a graveside experience. So people get to kind of walk through the experience of what it's like to die before dying, and we dig a grave and you get to lay in it if you're comfortable doing so. And then if you want me to shovel a little bit of dirt on top of you, cool, it's your experience. You get what you're paying for, so you can either lay in it, not lay in it. And the premise of that is really all about choice. Sometimes the scariest thing that we can do in a day is to say, that's not for me, no thank you, because we don't want people to think badly of us, and we want to conform, we want to fit in. So I want to provide a space always where people get to choose and say, that's not really for me, and be supported in that, and be like, that's awesome, because this is your experience. And just because we're firewalking or we're laying in a grave doesn't mean that you have to do it, or you have to do it, or you have to do it exactly like the person did it before you. So that's kind of something I've been working on that is very near and dear to my heart. There we go. All right, so this is me, and this is my daughter. And this is a workshop that I developed and I trademarked, and it's called The Anatomy of Abuse. It started as an installation for Art Walk in my store window. And it was to bring awareness to the part of domestic violence that people don't really talk about. It's not always a black eye and a trip to the ER. Half the time, it is just verbal and emotional and psychological abuse. So I had a friend come in and paint basically my story from my first marriage, and I am friends with my first husband. What kind of life coach would I be if I wasn't? So she painted all of the things on me, and we had the public come in with baby wipes, and they had a chance to erase all of the hatred. And it was actually a beautiful experience, and the thing I didn't anticipate was I carried this story that was painted on me for like 12 years, 14 years, something like that, and I would remember it and I would repeat it and it would play like a loop in my head. And as people erased it off of me, I noticed I had to refer to my sheet of things that were written down from my friend in order to remember the things. And I found that was very powerful and transformative, and it's become my favorite workshop to host. So this is kind of something that I offer to domestic violence shelters and things like that to help the people get rid of the narrative, that negative narrative that runs through their head. And it was recently chosen by the CFO of WNDR Outdoors to do it for plus size hiking clientele to help eradicate that negative message that they have in their head as well. And this is my information. I am on Instagram and I am on Facebook. I tried Twitter. I'm not a fan, so I just stay off of it for the most part. That is my website and that is my phone number. Thank you.
All right, round of applause for Teresa. Excellent. Stay right there.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get questions for you, etc.
Okay.
So first in the crowd.